3 days before everything ends, the system gives me a choice. 4 options appear directly in my vision like a notification I cannot swipe away. Option 1. An unlimited supply of any food or drink, delivered instantly, at any temperature, at any time. Option 2. A military-grade tactical exosuit enhancing strength, speed, and endurance by 300%, fully self-repairing. Option 3. A chemical compound that, when inhaled, makes anyone within 10 meters completely obedient to your last spoken command for exactly 1 hour. Option 4. A single-use coupon for 50% off at any convenience store of your choice. I read all 4 twice. Then I read option 4 a third time just to confirm the system is completely serious. It is. 3 days. That's how long before everything ends. I know this because the system told me first. 40 words that change the weight of every moment after them. In 72 hours, the rot begins. Organic matter will decompose at 400 times the natural rate. All stored food worldwide will be rendered inedible within the first 24 hours. Biological matter in living organisms will stabilize temporarily. The exact duration of this stabilization is unknown. I read it 3 times. Then I pick option 1 without a second of hesitation. Selection confirmed. Host has been granted unlimited food and drink supply. I reach out mentally and think the words, black coffee, hot 2 sugars. A paper cup materializes in my hand. Perfect weight, steam rising off the surface in a thin spiral. I take a long, slow sip and lean back against the warehouse shelf behind me. 2 years. 2 years of night shifts at the Meridian Supermarket Distribution Center. Stacking pallets, running forklifts, keeping the supply chain moving so people who have never set foot in a warehouse can walk into a supermarket at any hour and find full shelves waiting for them like it happens by magic. 3 shifts a week, barely enough to cover rent and food with a small margin left over that doesn't actually feel like anything. I am, by every metric the society around me has constructed, invisible. The coffee is the best I've ever had. The apocalypse is in 72 hours. I feel nothing except a slow, spreading calm settling into the center of my chest. Then my phone buzzes. I need to tell you something and I want you to read the whole message before you respond. I've been accepted into the Executive Leadership Program at Pinnacle Group. Regional Director Track. Starting salary is 6 figures. I leave for the corporate training campus in the morning and the program is 8 weeks residential. I stop reading. She keeps going. I've been thinking about us for a long time and I think you know as well as I do that we've been moving in different directions for a while. You're comfortable where you are and there's nothing wrong with that. I used to think I could be okay with it too. But I need someone whose trajectory matches mine. I can't keep having that quiet feeling that I'm waiting for something that isn't coming. I'm sorry, Kai. I truly am. You've been patient and that matters. But please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Delete my number when you're done reading this. I stare at the screen. Then I look at the coffee in my hand. Then back at the screen. I type 3 words, good luck, Mira. Then I go back to drinking my coffee. Because in 72 hours, her regional director salary is going to be worth exactly the same as my forklift wages. Absolutely nothing at all. Every dollar she's about to earn and every dollar in every executive account in the country will be completely, totally, permanently meaningless. And there won't be a single thing left in the Pinnacle Group corporate kitchen worth putting in your mouth. I actually smile. Here's what people who've never thought about it don't understand about the apocalypse. It doesn't destroy the world. It strips away all the invisible structures people built to tell themselves who mattered. The titles. The salary brackets. The performance reviews. The networking events. The corner offices with floor-to-ceiling glass. The 10,000 tiny social signals we use to rank each other every day without saying it out loud, so we don't have to confront that we're doing it. The rod is going to do what I never could. Level the entire field in one night. I finish the shift at 5 a.m. I drive back to my apartment building. I spend the next 48 hours preparing quietly, carefully, with no drama, because there's no one to have drama with. The system chimes the first midnight. In 24 hours, the decomposition event will begin. Host is advised to secure living space. Today's early access check-in options. 1. 500 vacuum-sealed personal air filters capable of blocking decomposition particulates at the molecular level. 2. A signal jammer rendering your precise location invisible to all tracking technology for 30 days. 3. A first-generation mechanical arm attachment, left arm only, strength equivalent to a hydraulic press. 4. A decorative snow globe playing 3 different festive songs. I hold option 4 in consideration for exactly 1 second purely out of respect for how committed the system is to its running joke. Then I take option 1. The filters materialize in a neat stack. Compact, matte black, each one the size of a credit card. I seal every gap under the door immediately. Windows get 2 layers each. Ventilation grills get 4, overlapping at the edges to eliminate any gaps. I work through the entire unit methodically, top to bottom, not rushing. Done. The system chimes one more time. Supplementary note. The rot accelerates in open air and humid conditions. Sealed containers will extend food preservation to approximately 6 hours before decomposition penetrates. Vacuum sealing delays this further. Host's unlimited food supply is exempt from all decomposition effects. I think about that last sentence for a long time. Then I make myself a proper meal. Bone and ribeye, medium rare. Roasted garlic potatoes. Green beans with almonds. A glass of cold water with ice and a slice of lemon. I eat slowly and deliberately at my kitchen table with the window cracked 1 centimeter to feel the last normal night air, savoring every bite with the specific satisfaction of someone who knows exactly what's coming. Then I go to sleep. I live in Building 9 of the Hargrove Residential Complex, room 614. 16th floor of a 16-story building. 8 buildings total in the complex, roughly 3,200 residents. The demographic is what developers call mixed income, which means blue-collar workers and middle managers and a handful of people who arrived here from somewhere better and are waiting to get back. My neighbor across the hall is Vivian. Room 613. She moved in 8 months ago with her husband, a real estate developer named Marcus who drives a white imported SUV and parks in the reserved spaces every single day without a permit, and who called the building management twice to complain about noise from the laundry room, which is on a different floor. He's 41. She's 26. She is, without question, the most striking person in the entire complex, and Marcus makes absolutely sure every person within 15 meters knows this at all times as a statement about his own achievements. In the lobby 3 weeks ago, to me specifically, "Can you not leave your work boots in the hallway?" She can smell the rubber from inside. It's genuinely unpleasant for her. In the elevator the week before that, my wife has an aesthetic eye. She finds the hallway lighting genuinely distressing. Someone should address it with management. Vivian herself almost never speaks. She watches Marcus perform their life together and keeps her face in a state of absolute neutral that takes either complete emptiness or extraordinary focus to maintain. I've thought about which one it is. I watched her once when Marcus wasn't paying attention to who was watching her. She looked like someone who has memorized the location of every exit in every room she has ever entered and is keeping a running mental count. I have no particular feelings about either of them beyond mild observation. They exist in the category of people I pass in the hallway every day without ever entering each other's lives. People who exist in parallel without touching. That is also about to change. The first sign is the smell. I wake at 6 a.m. on day 1 of the rot and the entire building already reeks. Not garbage, not sewage. Something worse than either. Deeper and more total. Like the air itself has made a decision and is carrying it out. Like every organic thing in every structure has chosen simultaneously to stop trying. I check every filter. All holding. I go to the window. The street below is chaos of a specific quiet kind. People streaming out of every building entrance with armloads of food, running in different directions towards supermarkets that have been empty since 2 a.m., trying to reach anything that hasn't already turned. The panic is total but the sound is wrong. Everyone is running and nobody is screaming, which is somehow more disturbing than screaming would be. They understand something terrible has happened but they don't have language for it yet, so they run in silence. I watch a man directly below crack open a sealed package of crackers. He takes one bite. Spits it immediately. The cracker in his hand has gone gray-green in real time, the decomposition spreading visibly across the surface like a signal propagating, like something that has been waiting inside the organic material for years and has finally been given permission. He drops the package. It hits the pavement and disintegrates before it stops moving. 6 hours. The system told me sealed containers would hold approximately 6 hours. The rot began at midnight. It has been exactly 6 hours. Every sealed package, every vacuum-packed item, every canned good with organic components in the lining, everything everywhere on Earth has turned in the night. The world's food supply is gone. I materialize a full breakfast. Eggs, thick-cut toast, sliced avocado, orange juice freshly squeezed over ice. I eat it at the window watching the city process what that means. 3 hours later, the first fight breaks out in the parking lot. For people over a single can of chickpeas someone found wedged behind a storage unit, seal partially compromised but still holding a thin viable layer at the bottom. By the time 2 of the 4 people produced weapons, the chickpeas had been sitting in open air long enough for the rot to take them. The can went gray and collapsed and by the time they noticed, they were fighting over nothing. Nobody stopped fighting. By noon, the Hargrove building chat has collapsed entirely into competing voices. Has anyone found anything still good? Anything at all? I have 2 children under 5. Please. Someone. Anything. I found a bottle of multivitamins in a sealed container. Still good. But that's all I have. The taps are still running. Water seems okay for now. For now is doing a lot of work in that sentence. My daughter is already sick. Government broadcast says stay calm. Emergency distribution points are being established. Then, 30 seconds later, I drove to the distribution point on Caldwell Street. Empty. Military vehicles were gone before I got there. I scroll through the spiral with mild interest, eating a bowl of hand-pulled noodles in rich broth. Then one message makes me set down the bowl. From Marcus, room 613. Attention all Hargrove Complex residents. My wife and I are organizing a building-wide survival committee. All residents with any remaining food or useful supplies are requested to contribute to a shared community resource pool. This is the only rational path forward as a community. Assembly in the Building 9 lobby at 2 p.m. today. This is not optional. That last line. This is not optional. Interesting choice of words, Marcus. I look at the wall between my unit and 613 for a moment. Very interesting. I don't go to the 2 p.m. meeting. I finish the noodles. I make tea, put a chair by the window where I can see the lobby entrance through the glass, and I watch. Marcus arrives with a clipboard. He's wearing pressed trousers and a collared shirt, which under other circumstances would be completely normal and is under these circumstances a message about what kind of person he believes he is. He's divided the approximately 40 attendees into contributors and dependents based on each household's reported remaining supply. Contributors are asked to place everything into a central shared pool that Marcus will manage and distribute based on assessed need, as assessed by Marcus. 3 families stand up and leave in the first 8 minutes. Then a man named Garrett walks in. I know Garrett by sight. 3rd floor. Former gym owner, the kind of build that comes from making physical presence a professional priority for 15 years. He walks in with 8 other men who have a similar quality of having already decided something before they entered the room. Garrett looks at the clipboard, looks at Marcus, looks at the table of contributions that have already been surrendered, flips the table. Everything scatters. Marcus's clipboard hits the floor and breaks clean in 2. Garrett's people collect everything in under 4 minutes. People scatter in every direction. Garrett stations 2 men at the lobby door and 2 at the stairwell entrance. Floor control, someone types in the building chat. Garrett's people are calling themselves floor control. 3 minutes later, anyone on floors 4 and above pays a daily food tax to floor control or loses stairwell access. Nobody asks how they plan to enforce that. The answer comes at 11 p.m. as screaming from floor 4 that goes on for 30 seconds and then stops. I sit by my door and listen until it stops. Then I make more tea. The knock comes at 11:30. I check the peephole. Vivian. Alone in the hallway. Holding a kitchen knife at her side, handle grip, the way someone holds something when there's nothing else left to hold and no better option coming. She's not here to threaten anyone. She's here because she decided something. I open the door. The faint decomposition smell from the hallway tries to creep in immediately. I block the gap with my foot. She looks at me. She doesn't say anything for a moment, just looks, doing some kind of rapid assessment. Then, you don't look hungry. I'm not. The building chat says a distribution center worker lives in this unit. Former. Ongoing supply disruptions. Something in her expression shifts. Not surprise. Recognition. She's already ahead of it. Whatever you have in there, it won't stay secret for long. People can smell it. Literally. The building is starving. I know. Then you should know that Marcus sent Garrett's people your unit number this evening. She says it flatly with no particular emphasis. Just information. He traded your location for guaranteed stairwell access. He did it while I was in the same room. He thought I was asleep. The pause. I was not asleep. I look at her. Why are you telling me? She considers the question. Actually considers it. Because in the 11 months I've lived across this hallway, Marcus has made 17 requests on my behalf that I never authorized to people in this building. He adjusted the temperature in the elevator because the button was at a height he said I found inconvenient. He had someone else's potted plant removed from the shared landing because he decided I found it visually cluttered. She looks at me directly. This is the first decision in 11 months that I have made specifically for myself. I don't want it to be wasted on someone who gets taken by Garrett's people in their sleep. I step back from the door. Come in. She steps inside. The moment the door closes behind her, something changes in her posture. She's been carrying tension across her shoulders and in the set of her jaw since the hallway, and now it releases an increment, like a first breath after holding it. Then she actually stops moving. It's warm, she says. Yes. The heat has been out since this morning. Yes. She looks around the space. At the kitchen, clearly functional. At the faint aroma of food recently prepared. At the complete absence of the decomposition smell that's been seeping into every other unit in the building through every gap and crack and ventilation pathway. Show me the made code, she says. Then, when I look at her blankly, whatever the terms are. I'm not naive about what following someone with resources in an apocalypse means. I'd rather discuss it now while I can still think clearly than after I'm desperate. I look at her for a moment. There are no terms, I say. Sit down. Tell me what you know about this building and the people in it. She sits. You want intelligence. Marcus made you attend every building committee meeting for 11 months so he could tell people his wife was engaged in the community. What did you actually do during those meetings? The edge of her mouth shifts. The first time I've seen her expression do anything other than hold. I memorized everyone, she says. Then eat first. Then talk. Over the next 2 hours, she maps the entire complex from memory. The retired military logistics officer on floor 4, unit 401, Bernard, 58, has attended exactly 0 building events in 2 years of residence. She noticed him because he's the only person in the building who checks the stairwell door hinge before he uses the stairs. Every time. Old habit. The former meal prep service operator on floor 11, unit 1108, Prisha, 29, ran a delivery business for 200 clients. Knows every building's layout, floor plans, and service access. Her business had commercial-grade vacuum sealing equipment. The data specialist in Building 7, Unit 607, Nia, 27, works remotely. Vivian noticed her because she was the only resident who checked her building's emergency exit map the first week she moved in and then checked it again 3 months later. The retired emergency vehicle driver in Building 4 basement parking went by his parking space number. Vivian noticed him because he ran maintenance checks on his truck every Sunday morning for 8 months without exception. She knows their faces, their routines, their habits, the things that distinguish them from the baseline of daily life. She's been watching because watching was the only thing in her current life that was entirely her own. You built a mental file on everyone, I say. It passed the time. I look at her. At the quality of attention behind those eyes. I'm going to need everyone on that list. She nods once. I assumed. I find Bernard at 7 a.m. the next morning by knocking on 401 and taking my chances. He opens the door on the second knock. Looks at me. Looks at the full hot breakfast tray I'm holding. Does the math on what that means in day 2 of the rot. You'd better come in, he says. Bernard spent 22 years in military logistics. He can look at a map and calculate supply line viability in 4 minutes. He knows how to move people through hostile terrain with minimum exposure and maximum efficiency. He is calm the way combat veterans who have processed their experiences are calm, not an absence of concern, but the conversion of concern into controlled response. He also has a hand-drawn map of the route to the Meridian Institute subcampus that he completed from memory the previous afternoon because he had nothing else productive to do and old habits don't stop when the world falls apart. I know the facility, he says. Over coffee I've materialized. It was a contracted research site. I oversaw supply deliveries twice in 2019. I know the entry protocols. I know the backup access routes and the loading dock configuration and the sub-level stairwell that doesn't appear on the public site map. I put Nia's tablet in front of him. The project reclamation file. He reads in silence. When he finishes, he sets the tablet down and folds his hands on the table and doesn't say anything for a full 20 seconds. Phase 2, he says. Yes. 11 days. 10 now. How many people are you planning to move? However many we can transport without compromising speed or security. He nods slowly, turns back to the map, picks up a pencil and makes 2 marks without asking permission. Then we stop wasting time, he says. Garrett comes to my door at 7 a.m. on day 3. 2 men flanking him. Steel pipe. The expression of someone who has built a career on being the most dangerous thing in every room and expects that to keep working exactly as it always has. I pull the door open before he raises his hand to knock. The element of surprise completely reverses. He stares at me. Does the unconscious assessment that large physical men do when they meet someone whose capabilities they can't immediately categorize. Something in the result bothers him slightly, which he files under manageable. Information says you have the only functioning food supply in this building, he says. Possibly the whole complex. Information is wrong about one detail. Which part? The possibly. He lets that sit. He's not unintelligent. He pivots faster than Marcus did. Then we've got a problem. Only if you make one. He looks past me into the apartment. Vivian is visible at the kitchen table, working through Prisha's building layout information. Prisha herself is cross-referencing against the building chart. 2 capable women working with focus and direction. Garrett reads the structure of it correctly and updates something in his calculation. You can't hold this forever, he says. You sleep. You go out. We have numbers. You have supply. That's a conversation, not a fight. 60-40, I say immediately. My favor. You provide real protection for people in this building who can't protect themselves. Elderly, families with young children. They eat before your people do. He looks at me. 50-50. I could have said 70-30. I said 60-40. I'm already being generous with your position. I meet his eyes without any particular energy. You have 8 men. I have whatever I have. You want to compare and find out, or do you want to eat? Garrett's jaw shifts. He looks at the two men behind him, who are very obviously hungry. He makes a decision. 60-40, he says. We shake on it. That evening I provide full meals for all 9 of them. Real food. Slow-cooked braised beef over rice, hot bread, cold water. Better than anything anyone in this building has had in 3 days. I watch their faces while they eat. The loyalty doesn't transfer to me personally. Not at first. It transfers to the fact of being fed. To the continuation of it. To the understanding, wordless and physical, that the person who controls the food controls everything that comes after. For the first time in their lives they want to be close to that instead of fighting it. This is why the system gave me food instead of a weapon. Food is the only thing everyone needs every single day without exception. It doesn't run out when the target gets behind cover. It doesn't malfunction. It doesn't escalate a situation past the point of usefulness. It simply and constantly anchors people to the person who provides it, as reliably as gravity. Midnight check-in, day 3. Today's options. 1. A portable signal emitter broadcasting a 2-kilometer radius dampening field, disabling all electronic surveillance. 2. Combat capability enhancement, all physical attributes raised by 6 levels. 3. A complete field medical kit with unlimited resupply and single-use autosurgery capability for any injury. 4. A self-warming blanket that announces the current time in a pleasant voice when patted twice. I genuinely consider option 3 for several minutes. Medical capability is going to matter. Injuries are going to happen. The autosurgery function alone could save lives I cannot save any other way. But I take option 2. Because right now, in this specific window of time, the gap between what I can physically do and what's about to come at me is more urgent than the gap in my medical capability. The surge hits differently from the first enhancement. Not just strength but precision. Speed that opens the world into separate clear frames. My senses expand until I can track a sound and locate its source within centimeters through walls. I throw a test punch at the reinforced steel door of my apartment. My hand doesn't hurt. The door has a 3-centimeter depression. I look at it for a moment. Then I look at the wall between my unit and 613. I can hear Marcus through it. His voice going up and up in a pitch that people's voices reach when they're arguing from a position they know is wrong and are doubling down because backing down feels worse than continuing. Her voice not reaching any pitch at all. Completely level. The voice of someone who has already decided something and is just finishing the conversation. Then just his voice. Then nothing. Day 4. The Hargrove building chat has gone quiet in the way that means people are conserving phone battery rather than the way that means things have stabilized. The taps are running a faint yellow. Water treatment chemicals, organic compounds, all are decomposing in the treatment systems at the same rate as everything else. People have started collecting snow from outside, which creates a different problem because the snow has been sitting on decomposing organic surfaces for 4 days. I've already built the water purification system using the blueprint from day 2's check-in. Sand packed into modified ventilation tubing, charcoal from a barbecue found in storage, ultraviolet from a lamp component. 200 liters per hour. Clean output. I'm sharing it with Garrett's people and 4 families on floor 6 who Vivian vouched for. Prisha found me on day 3. She arrived at my door with a laptop case containing 12 hard drives and a commercial vacuum sealer and 6 years of client address data covering every building in the complex. And she proposed a trade with the directness of someone who has been running a business solo for long enough to know that ambiguity costs more than clarity. She got the terms she asked for and started working immediately. Now she manages intake. Every person we absorb into the group gets documented, skill assessed, and assigned something they can actually do. Day 4 brings Nia. I hear her before I see her. My enhanced hearing picks up the impact of something hitting glass from 2 buildings over, then again, with increasing desperation. I go to my window and look across. Building 7, floor 6. A woman at the balcony throwing bottles toward my window and missing every time. Not because she's not trying. Because the gap is 18 meters and she's throwing on adrenaline in the wrong direction with the wind fighting her. I watch the 3rd bottle arc and fall short by 4 meters. Then I see the men in the window behind her. One already at the sliding door. I don't wait any longer. I'm on my balcony railing in 2 steps. The enhanced athletic capability has rewritten every calculation about distance and angle that my body has ever stored. I run the numbers without running the numbers. I go. 18 meters of open air between 2 buildings. 1 floor of height difference working against me on the landing. I clear the gap. Hit the balcony railing hard, absorb it in my arms, swing my legs over, and land in a crouch. The man at the sliding door has it half open. He stares at me. I put him down in 1 movement. The second man trips over him. The third, the one with actual self-preservation instinct, runs for the apartment door. He gets 4 steps into the hallway before I'm there. All 3 are alive and will wake up with the kind of headaches that change your risk assessment permanently. The woman is pressed against the balcony railing staring at me with the expression of someone whose entire model of what humans can physically do has just been completely overwritten. Nia, she says, as if introductions are the correct priority. Kai, you jumped from over there. Yes. That's 18 meters. Approximately. Are you? She stops. Rephrases. What did the system give you? I look at her. How do you know about the system? Because I have one. She holds up her hands. Not a defensive gesture. Showing me they're empty. I'm not a combat class. I'm a data specialist. I can read information from any storage medium, drives, terminals, broadcast signals, any system that stores data. My system has been telling me to find the primary host in this area for 3 days. She looks at me steadily. You're within range. That's you. I stand completely still. Primary, I say. There's a hierarchy. You're at the top of it for this region. I'm the support function. She holds my gaze. I want to be clear that I'm not doing this because I think you're special. I'm doing it because you have food. I was about to be dragged out of my apartment by 15 men, and my system has been sitting on a file I cannot open without connecting to you. She pauses. My system's words. I'm just following the logic. The system chimes. Secondary host linked. Nia Chin, data specialist. System rating, 91. Current function, intelligence and data retrieval. Host connection established. Nia blinks. I got the same notification. What does it say on your end? Primary host located. The restricted file is now accessible. She pulls out a cracked tablet from the laptop bag on her shoulder. The screen is lighting up with a new folder. It's been locked for 3 days. Opening now. She tilts the screen so I can see. Project Reclamation, Phase 1 Viability Report. Meridian Institute of Applied Sciences, Division 7. We should read this somewhere with a door, I say. Agreed. I get her across the gap by catching both her wrists as she jumps and pulling her up in one clean movement. She lands on my balcony, sits down on the railing for a moment, and then stands up with the careful steadiness of someone who just understood exactly how close they came to not making it. You've done this before, she says. 2 minutes ago was the first time. And you thought it would work. The system doesn't let you die on easy problems. She considers this. That's either reassuring or terrifying. Both, I say. Come on. Back in 614, Nia eats in silence for 5 full minutes. I put a plate of pasta in front of her and a large glass of cold water, and she works through both without pausing once and without any pretense about not being hungry. When she finishes, she looks at the empty plate with the expression of someone who has just remembered that basic physical needs are real and continuous and not something you negotiate your way out of. Then she opens the file. We read in silence for 40 minutes. The project reclamation report is 68 pages of research logs, testing protocols, incident reports, and administrative decisions. I read quickly. Nia reads faster and marks sections as she goes. When she finishes, she closes the tablet. Someone engineered this, she says. Yes. But not deliberately. A lab accident contained for 3 years before the containment failed. Yes. And the antiviral compound that reverses the rot process is being held at the Meridian Institute's subcampus. She stops. Which is 6 kilometers from here. Yes. And someone's system has been steering you toward this from the beginning. Food was the right choice because you needed people, and people in an apocalypse follow food. She turns to look at me directly. This was planned. The system's choices were designed around this objective. I look at the first choice I made. Unlimited food. Not a weapon. Not armor. Not an exosuit that makes me personally indestructible. Food. The one thing that creates loyalty, dependency, direction. A reason for people to stay and trust and move together instead of scattering. We need to get to that campus, I say. We need to get out of this building first, she says. Garrett's floor control is between us and the street. The system chimes. The midnight check-in has arrived. Today's options. 1. A vehicle modification system converting any 4-wheel drive to zero-fuel operation with full terrain adaptation. 2. Enhanced combat capability, all physical attributes raised by 8 levels. 3. A biological scanner capable of identifying any compound's full molecular composition on contact. 4. A very comfortable folding camp chair with a built-in phone charging port. 4. A very comfortable folding camp chair with a built-in phone charging port. The vehicle knowledge transfers instantly. Complete. Every modification, the sequence of steps, which components to source from standard automotive parts, which require improvisation, the exact configuration for optimal performance. Cole is in the basement parking level when I find him. He's been sitting in a camping chair beside the truck every day since the rot began because it's the only thing in his world that makes sense to stay close to, and he doesn't know what else to do. I walk him through the modifications. He listens without interrupting, crouching periodically to examine components, running his hand along parts one indicate, nodding at intervals that I learn quickly mean he's actually followed it rather than the polite nodding that means he's still processing. When I finish, he straightens up. Give me 90 minutes, he says. He finishes in 72. The truck starts on nothing. Runs completely silent. Cole sits in the driver's seat and grips the wheel and his whole face changes. Where are we going? He says quietly. Meridian Institute subcampus. 6 kilometers northeast of here initially. Then further. He nods. What's there? Something that stops the rot entirely. He looks at his hands on the wheel. At the truck's dashboard. At the parking level around him. Tell me when you want to move, he says. Day 5. Mira shows up at 9 a.m. I'm running departure logistics with Bernard when Garrett radios up that a woman at the Building 9 entrance is asking for me by name and has 4 people with her. I tell him to bring them up. She looks worse than I expected, which I immediately feel guilty for expecting. 3 days traveling back from wherever the Pinnacle Group campus dissolved within 24 hours of the rot. She came back to the city. She came back specifically here. She stops in the doorway when she sees me. Her expression does something her entire adult life has been carefully trained to prevent it from doing. It breaks. Just briefly. Then she pulls it back. Kai. Her voice is at approximately half its normal volume. I need help. I look at her for a moment. Then at the 4 people behind her. Who did you bring? She blinks. Rephrases to practical. My assistant Priya, who was pre-med before pivoting. A logistics driver named Ray who drove emergency response vehicles for 6 years. And 2 others. Ray drove emergency response vehicles. He knows roads, obstacles, and movement under pressure. Come in, I say. She steps inside and stops when she sees the apartment. The warmth. The food smell. The 5 people working at various stations with purpose and direction. You built something, she says quietly. We built something. I hand her a plate. Then we brief you. She sits down. She eats with the focus of someone who has been hungry for longer than she'd admit. When she finishes, she looks at me. In the elevator, she says. You said delete my number. I'm sitting in your apartment 6 days later. The rot is an equalizer, I say. What you said in the message was true in the world that existed when you wrote it. That world doesn't exist anymore. She looks at the table. I don't need you to excuse it. I'm not excusing it. I'm contextualizing it. I hold her gaze. What you need right now is an absolution. It's a function. What's yours? Something shifts in her face. The executive framing she defaulted to for years dissolving into something more essential underneath. I managed people who didn't want to be managed and made them believe coordination was their own idea. For 6 years. That's exactly what I need. She nods once. Tell me what to do. Day 6 brings the convoy block. 7 has held the underground parking lot since day 3. 30 people, multiple access points controlled, every vehicle in the complex effectively trapped. We've been working around it, using stairwell and pedestrian routes for everything. But the truck needs the lot to exit. I go down alone. 7 is in the parking level's center section, using a repurposed SUV as an operations base. He's organized. The organization has a military quality to it without the actual military background, which means he learned it somewhere that had stakes. He sees me coming. Doesn't move. Waits. I need vehicle access through the lot, I say. And I need the truck. The truck is mine. The lot is mine. He leans back against the SUV. What do I get? Regular meals. You're 30 people once a day. Real food, not scraps. I hold his gaze. And I'll tell you what the truck is for and where it's going. Tell me now. After the deal. He looks at me for a long time with the specific attention of someone who has survived by reading people accurately. Once a day. Every day until you go. Every day until we go. And your people come with us if they choose. He goes still. To where? Somewhere that stops the rot completely. Another long look. Deal, he says. We depart at 4 a.m. on day 7. 28 people total. 1 truck, 2 additional vehicles 7's people have prepared. Bernard runs the route brief at 3:30 a.m. with the efficiency of someone who has been doing this for 22 years and doesn't waste words on ceremony. The city is unrecognizable. 8 days of rot have stripped everything organic from every surface. Building facades are gray-brown where organic materials in the construction have decomposed. Every tree and planted area is collapsed into gray dust. Cars left on roads have their interiors rotted out, seats and dashboard components and rubber elements all gone, leaving clean metal frames. The streets are empty in a way that cities never are, and it makes every normal-sounding thing louder. Nobody speaks much in the first 20 minutes. Then Nia opens the tablet in the back seat and says, I need to tell you something about the file. I look at her. There's a section I didn't read to the group yesterday. She turns the screen. The rot didn't begin at midnight of day 1. The compound was in the municipal water supply for 12 months prior, at trace levels. A containment event in the lab's 3rd year released it into the water system before the team understood what they had. They sealed the lab. They thought they sealed the problem. She pauses. By the time they understood the water supply was compromised, saturation was at 94%. The midnight event was just the threshold. Saturation hit 100% and the process activated. The car is completely quiet. Vivian says, so it had been building for a year. Yes. Everyone in this region had been drinking it without knowing. Yes. And the lab knew. Nia is quiet for a moment. There are 37 internal reports in the file flagging water testing anomalies over the year prior. Everyone was reviewed correctly. Everyone was closed without action. Not suppressed. Not buried. Just closed by people who were very good at finding reasonable interpretations that didn't require difficult action. Mira, that's not better than suppression. No, Nia says. It isn't. At kilometer 31, the convoy block. 40 vehicles across the road in an overlapping pattern that has clearly been thought through. People on the elevated road shoulder to our left. Movement in the tree line to the right. This was set up days ago by someone who knew this route mattered. Bernard's voice on the radio from the second vehicle, controlled and quiet, visible count 22. Assume 30 plus total with concealment. They had time. They knew either this route or our specific movement. A man stands on the hood of the lead vehicle. Military surplus gear. Megaphone. He has the posture of someone who is operating out of depleted resources but hasn't stopped believing in the mission. Hargrove convoy. The megaphone crackles. Stand down. We're not here to fight. I step out of the truck. The air outside is wrong even 8 days in. Thick. The rots smell constant and low like a reminder of the countdown. Who are you? I call. Harlow. Reclamation Authority. We've been trying to reach the Meridian subcampus for 6 days. You just drove the route we couldn't secure. He sounds tired rather than aggressive. Depleted but not finished. We need the data specialist traveling with you. Nia Chin. Nia, from the truck window, says nothing. Her face gives nothing. I keep my voice even. What for? She has drives containing the full project reclamation file, including the section our team's server wiped on day 1. We cannot access the compound administration protocol without that data. The lab system has a biometric lock we can't bypass without the file. Nia gives me the smallest possible shake of her head. There is no biometric lock. But Harlow doesn't know that. I look at the 40 vehicles. The positions on the high ground. Harlow's team, which is exhausted and underfed but still organized and still armed. Your people have 3 days, I say. 3 days before Phase 2 activates and the compound starts affecting living tissue instead of just food. I watch how that word lands across the blockade. Not in Harlow. In the people around him, who have been running on adrenaline and purpose for 6 days, and hearing the deadline spoken aloud changes the texture of it. You've secured a road. We have the route, the data, and a working extraction plan. You can fight us for the next 4 hours, or you can follow us to the campus, get your people dosed, and let us broadcast the formula to everyone. Everyone, Harlow says. Every frequency. Constant loop. Full synthesis protocol. Anyone with lab access and the right components can make it. That's not controlled distribution. There's no infrastructure left for controlled distribution. Your blockade is 40 vehicles in a stripped city and everyone on both sides of it has 3 days. I hold his gaze across the distance. What exactly are you still protecting? The longest 20 seconds since the system first spoke. One of Harlow's men says something to him. Harlow listens. Turns back. We're coming with you, he says. The lead vehicle pulls forward. The gap opens. Bernard, quietly on the radio, what did you offer them? The compound for their people and inclusion in the broadcast. What did it cost us? Nothing, I say. That was always the plan. The Meridian Institute subcampus sits behind perimeter fencing that 8 days of rot has reduced to rust outlines. The electronic security is dark. The main entry protocols are non-functional. Bernard leads us to the loading dock entrance from memory. Sublevel access stairwell that doesn't appear on the public site map. White tile floors below, emergency lighting humming blue-white, the sharp chemical smell of a lab environment that has been operating in sealed conditions since day 1. The compound is in sublevel 3. Not hidden. Not locked behind anything that can't be accessed with the drives Nia carries and the extraction sequence she runs in 22 minutes on the subcampus terminal. Sealed glass containers in a refrigeration unit that has been running on the building's independent power system exactly as designed. Labeled in plain language. Next to a printed administration protocol explaining everything needed to distribute it, dose it correctly, and reproduce it in any adequately equipped laboratory. because it was always meant to be found. The Reclamation Authority was supposed to be here 6 days ago. Harlow's team was delayed the same as everyone else, by the same chaos that stopped everyone else, because the Rot does not make exceptions for people with official designations. There was no conspiracy, just a cascade of failures and delays that collapsed into each other until 6 days passed and 73 people were standing in a sub-basement having survived what they survived to reach something that had been sitting here waiting the whole time. It was here, Mira says. Just that. Yes, Nia says. Bernard oversees the administration with field medic precision. Every person documented, dosed, and cleared before the next one steps forward. Priya handles the medical monitoring because she has the background for it. Prisha documents everything in triplicate. While they work, I stand with Nia at the satellite relay console she's been setting up for the last 30 minutes. Ready, she says. Send everything. She formats the compound formula in 3 versions. Full technical specification for labs with proper equipment, simplified synthesis for improvised setups, emergency protocol for field conditions with minimum components. She adds dosage tables, administration method, contamination warnings, everything. Then she pauses, looks at the drives, looks at me. I nod. She uploads the full 68-page project reclamation file. Every research log, every internal report, every anomaly flagged and closed, every decision that accumulated into what happened. They should know what was done, she says. All of it. Nobody disagrees. The relay begins broadcasting on every reachable frequency. Within 40 minutes, responses start coming in. Survivor groups within radio range who have the formula and are already looking at their available materials. A university research lab 30 kilometers north with a chemistry department intact and 2 researchers who never left, responding with questions about synthesis steps. A hospital with a functioning lab and a doctor who has been waiting since day 1 for something actionable. Mira manages the incoming responses with the complete focused efficiency of someone who has been building to exactly this kind of work her entire career and didn't know it until now. Garrett organizes the physical distribution runs with Seven's vehicles. Bernard and Harlow coordinate the supply lines. Vivian handles the documentation of every group reached, every dose confirmed, building a record that will matter when the rot ends and people need to understand what happened. I stand and watch it all move. Then the system chimes. Phase 2 countdown has been suspended. Antiviral synthesis confirmed in 11 independent locations within broadcast range. Host has completed primary directive. The pause. New directive incoming. I read it. I read it twice. Nia says very quietly from 3 meters away, I have the same notification. I look at her. Read it to me. The rot was phase 1. Phase 2 organic tissue activation has been suspended due to antiviral saturation. She pauses. Continues reading. However, phase 3 was designed independent of phase 1 and phase 2 outcomes. Phase 3 is activated by the secondary compound present in the antiviral synthesis components. The room is still moving. Bernard coordinating. Mir on the relay. Harlow reviewing distribution maps. 28 people plus Harlow's convoy plus 5 subcampus researchers who stayed in the sealed lower levels and kept the refrigeration running for 8 days hoping someone would come. I look at the relay, still broadcasting. At the formula going out on every channel. The synthesis components, I say. Yes, Nia says. The formula we just sent to every available contact. Yes. When those components are combined and exposed to sunlight over a 72-hour window, they produce a secondary compound. Yes. Which means every group that received the broadcast signal and started synthesis has approximately 72 hours before phase 3 activates from their own labs. She sets the tablet down very carefully. The antiviral works, but making it creates phase 3. It was engineered that way, a contingency within the cure. The relay hums. Mira manages incoming signals from groups that started synthesis an hour ago. What is phase 3? I ask. Nia reads from the tablet slowly. Phase 3 is documented in a file I don't have complete access to. What I can see is this. It's described in the reclamation file's classified appendix as population selective biological differentiation. She looks up. Meaning some people survive it unchanged. Others don't. The system chimes one final time. Host has 72 hours to locate the synthesis inhibitor. The inhibitor neutralizes phase 3 production in all active synthesis environments simultaneously. Known location, Meridian Institute Primary Campus. Distance from current position, 41 kilometers northeast. Asterisk warning. Other system hosts have received this directive simultaneously. Priority access to the inhibitor determines the outcome for their respective populations, asterisk. Then I look at Bernard. He's already looking at me, the specific attention of someone who has been watching the situation and knew a next stage was coming before I turned around. I walk to him and hand him the tablet. He reads it without any change in expression. Sets it down. Picks it up. Sets it down again with the particular deliberateness of someone handling something that has changed the weight of every other object in the room. Primary campus, he says. Yes. 41 kilometers. Northeast. Other hosts. Racing for the same target. 72-hour window. Starting from the moment the broadcast went live. He looks at his map. Makes 3 marks. Looks up. Best case we have 62 hours remaining given travel conditions. He folds the map. How long do you need to brief the group? 10 minutes. I'll need 15 for the route prep. He raises his voice to the room without theatrics. Everyone listen up. New information and new movement. Eat and brief and be vehicle ready in 25 minutes. The room reorganizes itself. I stand for 1 moment longer. 28 people from Hargrove plus Harlow's convoy plus 5 researchers who held a subcampus together for 8 days on nothing but professional commitment and the belief that someone would eventually come. A data specialist who rescued 12 drives and unlocked a file that changed everything. A logistics officer who drew a map from memory and found a sub-level entrance that saved hours. A woman who spent 11 months building a mental file on everyone around her and turned it into the best intelligence resource I've had. A former girlfriend who drove back through a collapsed city and arrived with exactly the right skills at exactly the right moment. A reformed floor control operator who turned out to have organizational instincts better than most executives I've ever heard described. A driver who had been maintaining a truck for 8 months against exactly this moment. Whatever phase 3 is, whatever the primary campus holds, whoever the other hosts are and what they've built around them in 7 days. 62 hours. The system is patient. We have no time to be. We move in 25 minutes. Marcus knocks on my door for the first time at 9 p.m. on day 2. He looks worse than I expect and I expected bad. The left side of his face has a swelling that went in wrong and is going to take a week to stop looking like that. He's not wearing the pressed trousers anymore. He's in the clothes someone sleeps in when they don't bother changing because the effort feels meaningless. He squares himself in the doorway. This is the posture of a man who knows he doesn't have leverage and is trying to produce the feeling of leverage with body language alone. I know you have something, he says. I can smell it from the hallway. I could smell it yesterday. That's possible, I say. I have a vehicle. He shifts his weight. Full tank. 4-wheel drive. If you have food and I have mobility, we're looking at a partnership. Where would we go? He clearly expected that question less than he expected resistance. There's a military convoy assembling at Whitmore Station. About 40 kilometers out. If we move tonight, the roads are still. Marcus. He stops. The Whitmore Station convoy was in the building chat this morning. Someone confirmed it was abandoned before sunrise. The military pulled before it assembled. I look at him calmly. Your intelligence is 8 hours old. His mouth opens. Closes. Your car is a resource, I say. Your connections are not. A connection requires the system it operates in to still be functioning. What you have left is a vehicle, a swollen face, and a story about a convoy that doesn't exist. I pause. That's not a partnership. That's me doing you a favor. His jaw sets. What do you want, then? What would it take? Nothing from you. I hold the door steady. Go back to your unit, Marcus. Get some sleep. I close the door. I hear him stand in the hallway for a long moment before he goes. The next morning he's in the building chat proposing a reorganization of the survival committee under new leadership, by which he means under his leadership with an adjusted power structure that doesn't involve people flipping his table. 3 people respond. 2 of them to tell him the committee is meaningless now that Garrett runs the building. The third to ask if he has food, which he doesn't answer. By day 5, Marcus has stopped appearing in the chat entirely. On day 5, just before midnight, Vivian comes to my door for the second time. She doesn't have the kitchen knife this time. She has a shoulder bag and the air of someone who has completed the process of deciding and is past the point of reconsidering. He's been awake for 2 days, she says. He keeps opening his notebook and writing things in it and then tearing out the pages. He's planning something, I don't know what. He's not eating, which means he's not thinking clearly, which makes the planning worse. Is he a threat? She considers this honestly. Not a physical one. But he's the kind of desperate that does things that affect other people. He already sold your location to Garrett. She looks at me steadily. He's about to do something similar. He thinks he can build leverage by creating problems and then offering to resolve them. Does he know you're here right now? No. He thinks I'm asleep. The pause. I've thought very carefully, and the answer is I'm not going back in there. She walks in with the bag and sets it on the table. Inside, 3 hard drives, a first aid kit, a hand-powered radio, 2 waterproof notebooks filled with writing, and a flat case containing documents. The documents are property records, she says, seeing me look. Marcus's business holdings. Before things collapsed, he had 17 properties across the city under different legal entities. Some of them had emergency supplies stored for the commercial tenants. I look at her. You memorize the property records. I read everything he brought into the apartment. He never thought to keep documents from me because he never thought I was paying attention. She sits down at the table. I have addresses for 6 properties with high probability emergency storage. 2 of them are within walking distance of the Meridian Institute. The Meridian Institute. She says it like she already knows it's where we're going. Because Vivian doesn't miss things. The files, I say. I've read them, she says simply. Nia left her tablet on the table yesterday while she was calibrating the relay receiver. I read quickly. I look at her for a long moment. Then I sit down across from her. Tell me what you know about each property, I say. She talks for 40 minutes without stopping. The screaming from Building 7 starts at 6 a.m. on day 6 and carries across the gap between buildings with a quality that makes everyone who hears it stop what they're doing. Garrett comes to me with his jaw set. Leo's people. They've been going floor by floor since yesterday. Building 7 has about 200 survivors left and Leo's been converting or removing each one. He pauses. There are women in there. I know. Nia told me when she arrived. She said it flatly, without embellishment, the way people describe things they cannot afford to feel fully in the moment they're describing them. How many men does Leo have? I ask. Started with 20. Probably closer to 40 now. The ones who won't join tend to disappear. I look out the window at Building 7. Find me someone who knows that building's floor plan, I say. Prisha has it. Of course she does. Client addresses and delivery routes and service access points for all 8 buildings, memorized and documented across 12 years of meal prep logistics. She spreads the annotated layout on my kitchen table and shows me the service access pathway from Building 7's east side maintenance corridor. Not an elevator. Not a main stairwell. A maintenance ladder system inside the building's eastern utility shaft, used for HVAC service, accessible from an external panel that hasn't been mentioned in any of Leo's movements because nobody thought to mention a maintenance ladder. Here, she says, pointing. It runs from sublevel 2 straight to floor 15. Open metal rungs, no lock. The panel access on the outside faces the gap between Building 7 and Building 8. I look at the gap. 6 meters. Who else is in there that I should know about? I ask. Prisha thinks. Floor 9, Unit 902. Former trauma surgeon. Retired 6 years ago but still has his certification. He came home from a conference when this started and he's been alone since day 1. A trauma surgeon. I look at the building layout. At the maintenance access. At the distance. I'm going in, I say. Bernard, without looking up from his route planning, I'll note the departure and target return window. Garrett, you're going alone? Faster alone. 2 people doubles the sound profile. Cole, from the corner where he's been doing maintenance calculations on the truck. If you're not back in 4 hours, what's the protocol? Good question. The kind of question that means Cole has already decided he's part of this whether I've said so explicitly or not. Move the timeline up and start loading, I say. Don't wait. I go at noon. The maintenance panel is where Prisha marked it. The access ladder is cold metal and completely silent if you keep your weight distributed correctly. I go up slowly, checking each floor through the utility shaft access panels as I pass. Floor 6 is Leo's current operation level. I can hear it through the shaft wall. Raised voices. Doors. The particular quality of sound that comes from organized coercion. I pass it. Keep going. Floor 9, Unit 902. The surgeon's name is Dr. Wren. He opens the door on my second knock looking like someone who has been awake for 6 days and has been spending the time reading every medical text he can find on his tablets, cross-referencing against what he knows about decomposition biochemistry, and writing notes in a spiral-bound notebook that covers 3 months of professional observations. He looks at me. At the fact that I appear to be physically normal and well-fed on day 6 of the global food supply collapse. You have a system, he says immediately. I stop. I'm not a host, he says, seeing my expression. But I've been running the math on what I know about biochemistry and what I've observed from my window. There are people in this complex who are functioning at a level that cannot be explained by pre-existing physical condition or remaining resources. Whatever the system is, it has physics. Physics can be observed. He looks at me steadily. I assume you need someone with medical training. Yes. I need to get out of this building and I need to be useful when I do. Those are my terms. Doth I say. He picks up the notebook and the tablet in his medical bag, which he's had packed since day 2. We go back down the maintenance shaft together, which is slower with 2 people but still under 20 minutes. At floor 6 I hear Leo's voice through the wall, giving orders in the tone of someone who has had enough unquestioned authority for long enough that he's stopped noticing it. We get out clean. At the bottom, in the narrow gap between buildings, Dr. Wren leans against the wall and takes a long breath of the rot-smelling air. Floor 9 was the last floor Leo hadn't reached, he says. He would have gotten there today. I know. You knew about the timing. Prisha tracks movements across all 8 buildings using the building chat activity, maintenance record patterns, and resident behavior changes. She's built a predictive model. I look at him. She needs your medical knowledge to improve the health assessment component. He's quiet for a moment. How many people do you have? Currently 26. Moving to 31 with your people. My people? Floor 9 has 8 other residents Prisha flagged as worth reaching. A structural engineer, 2 nurses, a chemistry PhD, and 4 civilians with high adaptability scores based on their behavior over 6 days. He stares at me. You've been tracking behavior scores. Prisha has. She calls it the adjustment index. People who change their behavior fastest to match new conditions without losing coherent decision-making. Those are the ones who survive what comes after the rot ends. I look at the building behind us. I'm going back in for them. I go back 3 more times that afternoon. Every time the same process. Maintenance shaft. Specific floor. Specific door. Specific person who has been waiting in one way or another for exactly this knock. The chemistry PhD is a woman named Dr. Ewan, 43, who has been running informal chemical composition tests on every substance she can collect from her apartment because she had nothing else to do and it's her instinct to understand things. She has 17 pages of notes on the rot's decomposition signature and one observation that makes me stop. The rot isn't uniform, she says, spreading her notes on my kitchen table 2 hours later. There are trace compounds in the decomposition output that suggest the process has stages. Stage 1 is what we've been seeing, external organic matter. But there's a chemical precursor in the output that shouldn't be there if this was only targeting external matter. It's biosynthetic. Nia looks up from the terminal. Dr. Ewan continues. Something in the rot process was designed to build up in biological tissue. Not to immediately decompose it. To accumulate. Until a threshold is reached. She looks at me. I think phase 2 is already happening. Just slowly. Nia opens the project reclamation file to the phase 2 section and shows it to Dr. Ewan. Dr. Ewan reads it. Her face does something careful and controlled. 11 days, she says. 8 now, I say. She looks at the chemistry notes. Then at Nia's tablet. Then at me. I need a proper lab, she says. Even a partial one. The Meridian subcampus would have what I need. We're leaving tomorrow, I say. She nods. Picks up her notebook. Goes to the corner of the room and starts writing. This is what Bernard meant when he described good personnel. They identify what they need and start working toward it without waiting for permission. The night before we leave, the building chat goes completely silent for the first time. Not because everyone is asleep, because the people still alive in Building 9 have collectively stopped believing that typing anything into the chat will help them. The silence has a weight to it that typing would break. Garrett finds me at midnight on the balcony. He stands beside me without saying anything for a long moment, looking at the dark complex below. The emergency lanterns in the underground parking level cast an orange glow upward through the access ramps. I've been thinking about what you said, he says eventually. About what? About fighting versus dealing. When I came to your door. He leans on the railing. I've been running the gym for 8 years. Before that I did security work that I don't talk about. The whole time, everything worked the same way. You find out who has power and you take it from them or you work for them. He pauses. You didn't work like that. No. You offered a deal when you had the position to just say no and see what happened. Fighting you would have taken time and created a permanent management problem. Dealing with you took 5 minutes and got me 8 capable people. I look at him. I was being practical. I know that, he says. That's what I've been thinking about. You were being practical and it looked like generosity. Those are usually different things. I don't say anything. The people in Building 6, he says. The ones Leo's people are processing right now. We have 43 survivors from this building confirmed alive and ready to move tomorrow. We could take more. I look at him. Building 6 has a floor control equivalent called the ledger, he says. They've been tracking who has skills versus who they consider dead weight, and they've been making those judgments in a very specific direction. He pauses. There are 11 people in Building 6 who are on the ledger's removal list for tomorrow morning. 2 of them are on Prisha's adjustment index as high value. Who are the other 9? He looks at me. Elderly. 1 family with 3 children. A man on dialysis. I look at the dark complex. Can Cole get a vehicle to Building 6 East entrance at 2 a.m. without crossing ledger territory? I ask. If he uses the maintenance road along the back fence line. He pauses. I already asked him. I turn to look at Garrett fully. He's watching me with the expression of someone who has been waiting to see how I'd take this information. Testing something. You already planned for this, I say. I made some calls, he says. I wanted to see if you'd say yes or tell me to focus on our group. How long have those 11 people been on the removal list? Since yesterday afternoon. Go, I say, be back by 3 a.m. Anyone who can move under their own power comes. Garrett nods, pushes off the railing, then stops. You know the dialysis man can't make the full journey, he says. Not without equipment we don't have. I know. So why include him? Because leaving him because he can't complete the journey is a decision someone else can make after we've given him every option we have. Not a decision I make before I've even met him. Garrett is quiet for a moment. Alright, he says. He goes. At 3:18 a.m., 17 people come through the Building 9 fire exit in a group. 11 from Building 6 plus 6 of Garrett's people who went with him. The dialysis man is in a chair being pushed by his daughter, who has her jaw set at the specific angle of someone who will not be redirected. I provide food for all of them immediately. Garrett's people redistribute without being told. At 4 a.m., we move out. 51 people total. The truck runs silent through the stripped city. I sit in the passenger seat and watch the buildings pass. There's nothing left in them that was there before, and what's left in the people who survive them is something that didn't exist before either. Whether that's better or worse is a question that has to wait until we know what comes next. Bernard, from the radio, route is clear to kilometer 18. After that we'll need visual confirmation. Copy, Cole says quietly. He drives. I watch the city go dark behind us as we move northeast. 62 hours on the Phase 3 clock. 41 kilometers to the primary campus. Other hosts somewhere in the region running the same calculation. And somewhere inside the primary campus, an inhibitor that determines what happens to every person who received the broadcast and followed the formula exactly as we transmitted it. Everything that comes after depends on getting there first. The truck runs on nothing and makes no sound. We keep moving.